Hello, folks. As you can see, I have my friend Steve Hart with me again today, and we're going to talk about illusion or reality. And of course, this has been a major uh, issue for me because to me, the reality is what is materialized, and yet many people, including Steve, I believe, he'll clarify me if not saying it correctly, but many people believe the reality is the spiritual world. To me, the reality is the physical world as the spiritual world manifests here. That's the reality that we have to deal with. Steve, am I getting at least a gist of how you would describe it?
Well, the problem is it appears from what you're saying is you're separating the spiritual and the physical, and the two become one. So there's part of your conflict. Let's first once again try to define what illusion is versus reality. So you're saying reality is, explain it
Well,
again.
it's experiential. Here's the dilemma that I have. Supposedly, we have existed under different names uh, over a long extended period of time, which isn't really time; it's timelessness. Uh, but we keep coming back and having these experiences as a man one time, a woman another time, and of course different names, different races.
Okay.
Sometimes we're black, sometimes we're Negro, etc.
You're
All
talking about reincarnation. Okay.
all the subdivisions
Okay.
of what we call reality in three-dimensional in a three-dimensional sense. And the people that say it's just an illusion, to me, if it's an illusion, why bother? I mean, what's the purpose of it all?
Well, that's another question, and that's a whole other question.
Yeah,
All right,
I mean, yeah, go
let's
ahead.
let's go back to talking about what is reality and what is illusion. First, let me try to explain to you that what we're experiencing is both at the same time.
It's not either or, it's both and. I like that.
Yes, it is both. And let me define my interpretation of reality is that which is true, that which is does not change, and it is the source of all things. That's reality. Meaning, what we are experiencing here in the physical form is an extension of that reality. Okay. So what we're experiencing here in the physical form came from the invisible, which is the reality I'm referring to. That's what I refer to as reality, into this physical form, creating an illusion in the physical form. And the illusion is in our mind and is in our perception of what we're experiencing here. That's where the illusion is. For example,
if we die, we don't really die.
That's true.
Well,
that is a true statement. Yeah.
If the reincarnation is a fact, then it is true. But the dilemma that I have is if reincarnation is a fact and we're supposed to build on it. For example, Anastasia in her books says that when they're ready to die, when her grandfather and great-grandfather were ready to die, they just simply go into a cave and give up the ghost. And it's a voluntary thing, very conscious thing. And when they come back, they haven't forgotten what they did or were before.
I think that's very interesting. I would like to adhere to that way of thinking, yes.
I'm not saying that's our experience. I'm saying that was what she described in her books, which is why, to me, they were so fascinating.
Yeah. In my own experience, I did not remember my past lives particularly, but I do have a sense of being. In other words, all my life, I had a sense of who I was, but I couldn't tell you about my past lives. In fact, in my past lives, I don't think I believed in reincarnation.
Well, I was not trained that way either, and
that was a joke.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, and whatever I have experienced in my perception of my past lives, it's very, very limited, because to me, it really doesn't matter. What really matters is what I'm experiencing right now in this now moment, and being here in physical form. That's what really matters. It's the being part of me that I'm more interested in than whatever it is I've done in the past, you know. So let me get back to my description of illusion versus reality. As spirit has created this, excuse me, as spirit has created this reality, what we call this reality, or the illusion. It manifested itself into energy, flow of energy and patterns. So you would agree with me that in this physical form, everything that we see, touch, and feel is actually energy in motion, right?
Yeah, I do believe that all material manifestation is actually energy,
Right.
actually in motion, but slowed down to the point where it feels and
Yes,
looks physical.
that's right. Because if you take the atom and you open it up or take a good look at it, it has a lot of open space in it. It's not solid, and so we know with stories about quantum physics about how it's not what they thought it was. They thought it was more organic. Then they thought it was more mechanical. Turns out it's both. And this is where we're getting an understanding about this reality versus illusion thing, because what my reality is the invisible, or the source, or these energy patterns. That is the reality, and out of that comes the illusion. We create the illusion, but it's all experienced, as you just said a while ago, an experience by our own perception. And our minds we're capable of actually manipulating that perception and having different experiences. And that is what we call, or I call, though those of us who say that, that's why we call this an illusion. Now, within this world, the 3D world, there is both the illusion and reality, because there, as we just defined, everything that we're experiencing here is energy in motion. So that is a reality. That's the source of where it all comes from. So to me, it's not a struggle anymore. When I experience something, I have to ask my spirit self, is this true or is this not true? So I have to determine whether it's false or if it's true. Whatever is true is the reality. Whatever is false is part of the illusion. And we live, or our consciousness, our awareness is more based upon what we're experiencing out here, and it gets very confusing.
Yes, let me just interject here that last night, someone that was not in any recent meetings, in fact hasn't been there for a while, showed up, and not only showed up, but gave everybody a DVD that he had made of a video that says, I guess it was, I forget who he said it was, and she's not identified, but she's channeling information, and she's saying that, again, that everything is an illusion, it's not real, and there is no good and evil, it's all good.
Well, okay.
See, and this is part of my dilemma, trying to wrestle.
And I understand it. I understand how it's a dilemma. Instead of using the words good and evil, or however you want to, how about if we just use, this applies, and that is light itself. Everything is light. Everything is love. The darkness is just the absence of light. The fear is the absence of love. You know, it's more of an absence thing. So it's not a matter of this is good, this is evil. It's more of a sliding scale depending on where your perception is or what your experience is. And so, for one person, this would be unhealthy. Another person, this would be healthy. You know, depending on where they're at. But
the people that are making money and benefiting from the system as it's been set up, they would say it's a good thing. But in order for it to be a good thing for them, they have to make it a bad thing for almost everybody else. And that's the dilemma that I'm And
Well, that
I'm trying to reconcile.
that description is the dilemma, as you would say, of the separation, because we understand there is a separation going on here. You know, as we move out of the spirit or invisible into physical, there comes a separation of source. And so what you're describing now is people who have discovered how to use the illusion to their favor. And in the illusion, the reason they're able to manipulate or enslave or control other people so that they can make their money is because the people who are enslaved and being controlled don't know that they're slaves. And the people who are aware of this are using this against them. And here's the catch. They don't think there's anything wrong with that. And the reason why is because if a slave is a slave, they choose to be so, and they're in their ignorance. We give them the best of what we got, what we want to give them. You know, it's a very arrogant position to take against anybody who is.
To me, it's demonic.
Well, it is. It is demonic. It is being fed through the demonic realm. Yeah.
It's not just an illusion. It's a total fabrication. It's a lie. It's an untruth that they've literally inverted everything. Like live backwards is evil. I mean, they've literally turned everything inside out and upside down. And this is the dilemma that I wrestle with, and you know, I get very frustrated because I have people trying to pull me in one direction, then I have other people, and they're both friends, quote, they're trying to pull me in opposite directions, and to me both can't. It's not an either or situation. It's both and.
Yeah, it's
you know, we have to take the whole thing.
That's one of the beauties about this living in this 3D world. Is there is conflict, and I call it contrast, because I don't try to play in the conflict. I just see the contrast of the two, you know. But that's here again. It comes back to our perception. That's the way we perceive it. When you see the contrast, you just call it contrast. It's not really a conflict that I have to participate in.
Right. That's why I withdraw from people that start attacking me and say you're wrong. You know,
and you're wise to do so, to withdraw from them, because
I mean, it's a no-win situation as I see it.
Right. When you're caught up into the conflict, it's not. But
right.
it is a winning experience when you can step away from it and hold the peace in the midst of the conflict. Because what you're doing when you do that is you're neutralizing the conflict. So there is an advantage to that.
That's an intent of mine, is to neutralize.
And that's an intention of mine to hold in my heart when I see conflict, is to not jump in and try to take sides. You try to understand both sides of the coin or both sides of the story, and at the same time neutralize it so that you can move on. Because see, as long as we're holding on to the conflict or the duality within our mind, we're going to struggle. But as we let go of it, we begin to expand and open up our awareness, and it doesn't affect us anymore. Like I'm going to be honest with you. I'll give you a quick example. Is, you know, back in the 90s is when I began to wake up and realize, wait a second, this political thing is a bunch of bullshit. Forgive me for saying that, using that word, but that's what it is. It's just one person's view against another person's view, and I could see how the elite and the machine have used that conflict against us. And so I begin to step back and become neutral and see the contrast. I mean, I'm aware of the contrast of what the political parties positions they want to hold, but we're all the same people, and we all really basically want the same thing when you step back and take a look at it. So that is part of the illusion. That is to get caught up into this conflict, and we spend a lot of our time and our awareness on that illusion.
Yeah, well, we spend instead of attempting to build bridges and communication with each other, what we end up doing is putting up walls, which only further divides, creates the illusion of division, which I agree with you.
Right.
At essence, there is no division at the very essence.
There you go.
But somehow, Creator allowed part of creation to rebel and create the delusion of separation. I'm going to call it an illusion.
That's interesting. Interesting you put it that way. I don't call it rebellion as much as I call it a choice, or because what we're experiencing here is not something evil. What we're experiencing here in the third dimensional world in physical form is an experience, and I think that it's a choice that we make. And in some parts of me it says, did I ask to come here? Why am I experiencing this? At the same time, there's other parts of me that my more higher awareness side of me says, I came here to have this experience. I came here to be a part of the collective in this third dimensional world. Because what's happening is, the question is, our purpose is to wake up to who we are. That's really our purpose, is to become more aware. So everything that we experience out here in the conflict, in the illusion, its only purpose is to help wake us up to understand who we are.
But something, if the whole purpose is to wake up, who or what made us fall asleep in the first place?
You did. I did. We all did.
I don't believe that. I
why not?
really have trouble believing that I chose to reincarnate again and again and not remember anything I learned in the previous time around.
But there you go. See, some people, you just said a while ago, some people are beginning to remember. So there isn't
bits and pieces.
Yeah, there is an evolution of this, and this is part of the evolution. Here's the reason why, in my opinion, the reason why we don't remember who we are, and when we come into this world, we seem to come with limited amount of knowledge of anything that we've learned in the past lives, and that is because when we come into this world, it's more of a shock factor. In other words, to come from spirit into physical form is very difficult. It's not an easy task. It'd be almost like the reverse of when someone were to die and to be released from the physical form into spirit. I've heard people tell stories, or at least the implication, about the freedom that they have, because they're no longer constrained to the body itself, the physical body. They have
like Star Trek. I mean, beam me up, Scotty. And they dematerialize and they rematerialize in another place, another dimension, whatever. I know that's science fiction, but I honestly believe there are clues within the science fiction as to potential realities or things that we wouldn't normally consider if it wasn't for these minds that are able to create the science fiction stories.
A great deal of science fiction is a reflection of reality, and a product of our imagination, which is part of the illusion. See, that's the beautiful thing about science. I love science fiction because we are able to use our imagination, and it somehow mirrors some of the reality of what is really going on out in this world and in outer space and so forth. Because there's a connection between the invisible and the physical, and that's where you get your science fiction. So the fiction part of it is supposedly part of the illusion, but maybe there's more reality to it than what we want to believe. That's another good example. A movie, if you were to make a movie, is the movie real? Is it a reality? No, it's not. It's fictitious. It's a movie. At the same time, yeah. At the same time, the people who made the movie, the way the movie was made, what you would call a reality. In other words, it came out. The movie came out of a reality. Okay, and I'm saying that we're living in a movie right now, and we're the actors in the movie. We're having the experience because we get to, as we are observing the movie right now, we are also the actors and the directors, of our own movie. And we get to decide. Most people don't know that they can they have the power to change what's happening in their movie. That's the thing, and therefore we can change what we call our illusion that we're experiencing right here. It's not that the illusion is evil, or working against us. It's a playground.
Well, sometimes for those that are put through suffering that they can't identify why.
You got that right. I understand that, and I don't have the answer.
It's not a pleasant thing that anyone would say, "Well, I created this." No, when they stole my house, I didn't create that. I mean, but people say, "Well, everything that happens, you created."
Well,
no, I didn't. I have no conscious way of identifying the fact that I'm going to let the bank steal a home that their attorney had promised me, if you let us sell this other property, we will let you keep the one you're in. And then they totally lied and went back and had a different lawyer take over that doesn't even live near me. These are things that I've had to deal with and wrestle with that are human experience.
I cannot explain your experience with your house, but we do know that there's a universal law, which is called cause and effect. And there is purpose and intention put into these patterns that I referred to a while ago. These energy patterns that are into this world, those are there, and they can be manipulated with some degree. We don't have total power to manipulate them. If we did, we'd probably destroy ourselves because of our unawareness about who we are. But we do have the power to manipulate. But what I want to get back to is I can't explain to you exactly what happened with your house situation. I can only explain what happened in my situation. In my situation, I had 4 properties, real estate properties that I had invested in, and I put a lot of money into them. I felt like, this was a good investment for me to make. And then within 3 years, I lost it all. It was all taken away from me. And I can't blame any one person except to tell you this. My intention when I bought those properties was to be able to create a residual income of real estate, somewhere to put my money that I had accumulated into real estate. And the reason for me wanting to do that is so that I could be free to do the things I want to do with my spiritual work that I'm doing right now. That was my idea, okay? But when it all was taken away from me, now I'm thrown into a dilemma and going, I don't understand. So Spirit had me go back and ask the question, was that my idea? Or did Spirit really direct me to make those purchases of those property, put all that money into that? And I had to reconsider my own perception about what I thought was my idea, my pride with what I had done with my money and the wisdom I had to make the investments in the property, or maybe there was something else. And obviously it was something else, because now I don't own anything in the area of real estate. And I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do. Because what happened is when I lost the property, when I went and went through a bankruptcy, I had my own internal experience. I had to go in and look within myself and say, okay, what is it that I'm missing? And I went through a very difficult time, a period of depression and so forth. But through the process, I knew that God had not abandoned me. And so what I'm trying to say to you is, it changed me. It changed me within. I was investing in something out here in the physical form. What Spirit's intention was to change me. And now here we are, over 10 years later now, and I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do without having this property and without having to worry. I mean, I was going through massive amounts of money. I mean, it was crazy what was going on back in those days, in those early years. I was going through, believe it or not, $10,000 a month was going through my bank account. Yeah, wow. At the time, yeah, and it was ridiculous. And I was trying to stay above, and I got up to $80,000 in credit card debt, and it just kept, it was snowballing, And if you want to understand what actually happened, you may have seen the movie called The Big Short. They made a movie about what happened
I
in with
remember
the
that.
real estate, and that it was the banksters, their plan to do this, to manipulate the market so that they could take advantage of people like myself and millions of other people. And so
Around the world.
So there was a reason why it happened. It's not like not like I totally brought it upon myself, but I participated in the illusion.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I'm going to be making a video in the next few days, I hope, with another friend who was like me and I like you, was raised as a fundamentalist Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Why doesn't God answer my prayers?" and so anyway, I'm not going to tell his story, but it's quite an amazing story how he wrestled with this for a long time in his life till he reached another conclusion. And again, that's the video that I'm going to be making with him. But many of us on the spiritual path have, shall I say, become disillusioned with how things have played out in our actual experience.
And it's all about us waking up to what is true and what is falsehood. What is the reality and what is the illusion in this experience? That's what it's all about.
And apparently, there has been a manipulation, even in all of our spiritual groups, the 5 main religions of the world. A 6th one is atheism, is another religion. But they've all been manipulated, from my perception, to deceive us. There's truth in all of them, but yet they're mixed with so much untruth that it becomes a great deception.
Right. That's right. Yeah, right. The only truth that we have is what we can find within ourselves. And that's why religion is mankind trying to explain himself out here in physical form, and through our belief systems, which we here again is part of this conflict I was referring to a while ago. That's what religion's about. And religion and all religions are basically a control system.
And they all have love in them somewhere.
Of course.
It's an ego trip. Who's right is how it boils down.
So let me backtrack and say I do not totally discourage people from participating in religions. I do not. I believe that it is a stepping stone. It was for me. It was for you. If it hadn't been for my Christian experience, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at today. Well, I say that loosely. I mean, Spirit would somehow choreographed it. But I can say there were moments throughout my Christian experience that brought me to where I'm at today. So I'm okay with it, and I don't totally discourage it. Now I'm glad I'm not still involved in the Christian church, because there, like you just said, there are some trappings. There's a lot of control. There's a lot of dogma or disinformation, and so the true love was distorted through religion. But you know what? That's what saved me, Ron, because it was the love of God in my heart that made the difference for me. And that's why I no longer cling to the religion. I was still clinging to the spiritual things that I was being shown because of love. So that's why I'm able to step away and say, this is truth, this is falsehood. And I make that judgment based upon my own awareness. And I go like this because I'm making from here to my connection to my higher self. You know, not like it's up there, but I don't, you know, it's somewhere out. It's within me. In there, out there. I don't know.
Well, it's all of the above.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Well, there is another universal law, as within, so without, and so it all starts from within. So.
Well, there's another one that says "as above, so below," which means
same thing.
If there's confusion down here, it means there must have been some confusion going on up there too, in that realm, and that's a hard one to get my mind around.
That is true. There is a spiritual battle still going on. Yeah. I believe the battle's been won if we tap into that. But you're right. In between source and here, there is still a battle going on, and you're right. There is some of that. That's why you're seeing, but it's crumbling, and the light is coming in, and the darkness is being dissipated.
People waking up more and more. So anyway, thank you for taking the time to
I hope I tried to
go
shed some
through
light.
this with me. It's food for thought.
Yeah.
I'm not providing you an absolute answer because I'm not sure at this point if there is an absolute answer other than to love.
You got it. Great. Good choice.
Okay. Well, thank you, Steve. I really do appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.